I started to fall in love even more with him. And my second decision was, do I invite him or do I just go on my own, which was what I planned for. And in the end, I did decide to ask him hey, if I invite you, will you come? And he
Mm.
said, absolutely. I will quit my job and I will join you on this round the world trip.
And we're live. Woo-hoo.
All right. Awesome.
Yes. So, welcome to the show,
Yes.
Joanne. Is it Joanne or Joanne Flynn or
It's Joanne.
Yeah.
Joanne. How you
Joanne.
say it. I'm trying to do an accent. Joanne Flynn Black, but you could call me Joanne. Joanne Flynn Black is my full
Okay.
name. Yes.
So, I asked this question in the pre-chat because you gave me a very mysterious description about how you were a successful consultant.
Yes.
And then, well, obviously you've written a book about it, which is probably why you were doing the little circuit of all the shows and things. But
yes.
You were a successful consultant, but you decided to go on a round the world trip, I believe. And
Yes.
something happened that changed it before you started. So
Yeah.
take us to
the journey.
Well, yeah, start off with what were your original plans? Like you were going to give up your job and travel around the world. Was that the original idea?
Yes, that is absolutely true. I worked for Deloitte Consulting. I was there for 10 years. I was on the track. I was getting promoted and promoted and promoted, and I was a senior manager there. And the next step would have been partner, right?
Yeah.
And people who are partner really put in their life. And I just said to myself, do I either want to stay and make partner or try to make partner, let's just say that, or do I want to just take a year and just travel, And so that was the first decision. And I finally, after a lot of thought, I decided I'm going to go on this round the world trip and I'm going to travel. And so I put in, a leave of absence, and I was, they were working to get that going. While they were working to get that going, someone came back into my life who I had met 8 years prior on an airplane for all things. And I start to date him and I'm saying, hey, you don't want to get involved with me because I'm leaving. I'm going on this around the world trip. I'm just going to be out there, girl alone in the world. And he said, I'll take my chances. I said, okay, that's fair. And then as I was waiting for the leave of absence to come through, I started to fall in love even more with him. And my second decision was, do I invite him or do I just go on my own, which was what I planned for. And in the end, I did decide to ask him hey, if I invite you, will you come? And he said, absolutely. I will quit my job and I will join you on this round the world trip. And I said, well, I'm not asking you yet. Give me a minute. And then I did ask him and he said yes. And he came with me.
And presumably,
yes,
this has a happy ending. It's not like you flew away with this guy you hardly knew, and then you split up after 4 days in Morocco or something. Presumably, are you still together now? How was the world trip?
Yes. Spoiler alert, but he is my husband now.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I was thinking now, oh my God, it could be more interesting.
Yeah. But I will say the name of the book is called In Motion, Around the World in Love and Heartbreak. Ooh. So there is a little heartbreak, but I'm not going to share that with you because I think it would spoil the book if I did.
Okay. So, as we were talking about, I love travel too, and I like going on trips. So, where did you which way did you go around the world, or
we did?
What did you have any specific plan, or did you just kind of book a single flight to somewhere? Where did you go first, and what was the kind of route you took?
Yeah, I had a loose plan. I had about 3 or 4 destinations that I knew I needed to get there at a certain time. And I started out. I flew from San Francisco, which is I was living. Well, I was living in San Francisco for 10 years.
Yeah.
I moving back to New Jersey, and we left from New Jersey, flew through San Francisco, and went to Japan. That
Oh,
was our
okay.
first stop. Yeah, and I had a good friend who was an expat there, and he said, "Come stay at our apartment." And it was him and his wife, Chris and Sabina, and they were very lucky that they had a extra bedroom because they just had a baby, and they
Yeah.
said, "Come stay with us." So that's what we did. That's where we started,
Okay.
and then. Yeah, and then after that, we went to Australia and New Zealand, and a place that you're going to soon, which is
Thailand.
Thailand.
Yeah.
And we went up to Bhutan, which is up in the Himalayan mountains,
Yeah.
and then India, which I have lots of stories from India. We went to Lithuania and Russia
Yeah.
and Spain and Morocco and Italy, and we went all the way around the world.
Yeah. And did you have did you buy an all around the world ticket, or were you just buying individual things and working it out as you went
Yeah.
along? How did you approach that?
Well, at the time, because I was working for Deloitte and I
Yeah.
had so many miles saved up that my goal was to buy this round the world ticket. But they basically said, if you do and you miss any one of your flights, all the tickets going forward are void. That's how it was. I don't know, that many years ago, but it got me so nervous. So I didn't do the round the world tickets. I kind of pieced together part with miles, some with money, but kind of pieced it together just from, figuring out like, okay, I had a couple of destinations, like for example, Bhutan. I had something booked on a specific day. So I knew I had to get there. And the only way to get there was through Thailand or India. So I knew I had to be in one of those places, a couple days before. And that was kind of how I figured out. We had a friend actually meet us in Spain, and he actually ran with the Bulls. Our friend Trevor. So we knew, okay, we have to be in Spain in July, with the running of the Bulls. So there were certain dates that we knew, but everywhere in between, it was like, what day is it? I kind of forgot what day it was, and that was my goal.
Yeah. So it must have been a bit weird though, because like, you met this, you re-encountered, you met this guy again, and then like you asked him. I mean, were you ever thinking like he was going to be sensible and saying like, "No, I'll wait for you when you come back"? But he actually said like, "Yeah, I want to travel." Must have been very strange feeling being on that first flight out of it, in like,
yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. I mean, I didn't know if he would say yes because he had a job. He was very successful in what he was doing. And I didn't know if he would say, I want to go, but my life is not allowing me to go. And then I would have not, I would have been on my own. I would have gone on my own. But, the fact that he said yes and he was all in, it changed everything. It made it that it was, togetherness as opposed to just girl out in the world.
Yeah, we have a comment from Deb Michelle.
Oh,
It says,
Deb. Hi,
Jen.
Deb.
And
great to see
that
you.
sounds amazing. I'm not sure what that comment was about, so apologies.
probably the trip. So Deb, I'll tell you about Deb. She is also a big travel writer, and even I remember once she sent a book to me about travel writing, and so she's probably excited about the traveling, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So you're traveling around the world with a guy who you're falling in love with, and hopefully he's falling in love with you. Well, it sounds like it. We can probably say that's true in hindsight.
Maybe.
But what was the place where you thought, like, oh, this is going to be the person I'm going to marry, so to speak? Or where do you think the real magic, or was it always on the whole way like that? Because it must have been like some enormous, long, romantic holiday in a way.
Yeah, I think every place, right, we got closer. We'd, it was kind of funny because sometimes we'd stay in these, we went on the cheap, or like the
Yeah.
cheapest we could get. And sometimes we stayed in hostels that would just have bunk beds. And we didn't want to sleep apart from each other. So we'd squeeze into the bunk bed so we could sleep in the same area. And I will say, though, that India was a place that I really started to feel that, oh my God, this is the person. This is the
Yeah.
person that I want to be with forever. I couldn't imagine not then, at that point, not being
Yeah.
with him.
So,
Yeah.
what was the longest place you stayed in then on this trip? I mean, how long were you
Yeah.
staying in place? Were you staying a couple of
Yeah.
weeks, a month, or like what was kind of your
Yeah.
frequency of travel?
Right, right. It would depend on the place, but it was the longest place was actually in India.
Yeah.
Other places were, maybe 2 weeks, a week, 3 days, depending on how quick we moved. But in India, we had planned to, we'd just gotten out of Bhutan and we flew into India, into Calcutta, and the whole idea of India was it was going to be May. And one of my friends she's from India, she said, do not go to India in May
Yeah.
because it's really hot. And I said, I don't care, Shirley, because that is the time that I'm going to go in my round the world trip. I'm going to go to India even just for a week, a couple days. And we wound up staying there 2 months.
Oh, okay.
It was so amazing. And the heat, yes, we were melting and all that, but the heat was the heat, and we just let it, it just happened, But we stayed for 2 months there and didn't even see the whole country. Unfortunately, we couldn't go as far south as we needed to, or wanted to, but definitely a place I would love to go back to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deb came back and said the trip, presumably
Uh,
at the time,
uh,
was amazing. So,
Thanks, Deb.
okay. So, like, have you been back to any of the places post this trip? I mean, how long ago was it that you did this around the world trip? Was this like?
Yeah, so this was 19 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's been a while. I'm trying to think if I've been back to Italy. Actually, I've been to Italy
Yeah.
and Spain. I've been back, but every country we went to, we'd say, "Oh God, I don't want to leave here." And I would always say
Yeah.
to Ira, my boyfriend at the time, "Babe, we could come back.
Yeah.
Let's go come back." And some places we didn't yet, but I do foresee maybe some kind of, I don't know, going back and maybe retracing the trip or something at some point. We could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I have family, and I have family in Italy. And
Yeah.
so we've gone back to see them, and we've gone back to Spain as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you were doing the trip now, if you could do it
Mm.
around a whole another year around the world, where would you
Yeah.
go to that you didn't go to last time, or would you just kind of reenact something very similar to what you did then?
I think what we would do differently is we'd stay longer in
Yeah.
places. I think we were, we were, let's say, as for example, Thailand. We're in Bangkok, we have to go to Chiang Mai, and we're
Yeah.
here, and we have to go there. We're in Spain. Well, we're so close to Morocco. We didn't plan to go to Morocco, but we're like, oh, it's like a 3-hour ferry. Let's just do that. So I think that if I did it now, I would just pick less countries and stay longer. Because I think about, like, one of our last stops was in Spain. We were tired, right? We
Yeah.
we were moving very quickly and packing and unpacking and packing. And by the time we got to Spain, we said, let's just stay. And we stayed in Sevilla for
Yeah.
a week. Like, we did nothing. We just stayed there, and it was so wonderful to go to the little cafe every morning, same place, and make friends with the barista, and just have a feeling of staying longer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, slow
Yeah.
travel seems to be a thing now that people are doing.
Yeah.
We got another comment from Megan.
Oh,
I'd love to hear some of the coolest wisdom lessons you discovered from these beautiful countries. She also got an also comment. Also, is Ira's photography featured in your book? That would be incredible too. So,
oh, yeah. So, hi, Megan. We do have a similar. She's Megan Flynn, spelled Flinn, but I spell
oh,
it the
okay.
correct way, which is why.
Yeah,
um, for the first question about just lessons and things, I really feel that it was the people we met that made the experience. Maybe
yeah,
we could be in the most fantastic place in the world, but if we didn't meet anyone, we wouldn't have a memory of it. But we met so many amazing people, and taking the time to just learn about them and where they were going, where they were going to next, where they were coming from. Just I think it was at the time before all of us had a cell phone in our pocket. We
yeah.
had little flip phones that we could had to pay, to even get on. So we weren't on our phones as much, and I just think that spending that time with people really made the trip. And for Ira's photography, we're gonna see. So Ira is a professional photographer,
Oh, okay.
and I don't want to spoil anything, but we shall see on that.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
I'll ask this before I forget because I think it's an important question.
Okay.
When your year was up,
Mm.
what was it like going back to reality, so to speak? When you came back to the US, did you go back to the same job you had before, or was it a case of
Mm.
like we've forgotten who you are, or you were like I
Yeah.
don't want to do that job anymore? What was it like
Yeah.
going back into the corporate world after that whole year of adventure and romance and excitement?
Yeah. Well, I'll say a couple things. When we first got back, I couldn't even talk to anyone. I think
Yeah,
the only people I talked to were my parents, and everyone else. I said to Ira, "Could you get that call?" Because I just could not. It was just too much. Like the people want to know, well, where was your favorite place, and all these questions, and it was just too much to even get the words out. And I still wanted to travel more. So,
yeah,
I did a few local trips. I went up to Vermont to see my brother. I flew back to California. Cause we landed in New Jersey. I flew back to California to see some friends. It was hard coming back, and I did not go back to my job. Um, Even though I was the whole time we were planning a leave of absence, at the very end, right before I was leaving, it was like, you could also just leave and come back.
yeah.
And then, because if I did a leave of absence, they were like, well, you need to call in for our annual review cycle, and it's 2 days, and I'm like, I'm going to be on that kind of coincides with my trip in the Himalayan mountains. I don't think I'm going to have a phone connection, so I just decided I'm gonna leave, and maybe I'll come back, which I haven't yet, but one day I might. To them, and it was hard coming back. Honestly, it really was hard for both of us, and just having that like massive experience to say, I'm now going to go to work.
Yeah.
And I didn't at first. Um, Actually, one day, we went to Barnes and Noble, and I had just gotten back, and I noticed a sign, and it said, "Women who write are reading here," and it had a date, and I was like, "Oh, it's probably past." And I looked; it was the next day. So I
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I'm women who write. I'm a woman. I had a lot of stories. I'm gonna come." So I went back to Barnes and Noble, and I met this amazing group of women, and they said, "Look, why don't you join our group, and you could be part of this nonprofit called Women Who Write in New Jersey, and write some of your stories." And that was how I started the writing, and also I took a class in New York because I just had all these experiences that I wanted to share, and that really helped me in the kind of the reintroducing into life in the US.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
obviously, you've now got this book coming out in
Yes.
November time, I think it is.
Yeah, November 11th. So it's
November
11
11th.
11.
Yeah.
Yes, 1111. Yes.
What? So how did? Because it's been a while now, as we've established. Why
Yeah.
is the book coming out now? Why didn't you do it like 10 years ago? Is this kind of like
Yeah.
just a circumstance, or did you feel you needed that time difference before you started to tell your story, so to speak?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I started writing, but I never thought I had a book in me. I
Yeah.
always just thought it would be an article that gets published in a travel magazine. I never thought it would be a book. That just seemed too daunting. And then the more I wrote, the more I was like, wow, this could be a book. Let me put into a book. But honestly, it was so overwhelming. I had these stories, but I didn't know how do you begin a book? How do you end a book? Right. And I shelved it. I just said, I'm not going to write.
Yeah.
I can't turn this into a book. My life was very full with lots of other wonderful things. And I just couldn't see myself publishing the book. And actually it was my father-in-law, who's since passed
Yeah.
this year. He kept saying to me, Joanne, when are you finishing the book?
Yeah.
And I would say, Al, I'm not writing the book. It's done. It's shelved. It's over. And the next week, even though he acted like he forgot, even though he didn't forget, he goes, Joanne, when are you finishing the book? And I'm not
Yeah.
writing the book, Al. And then one day I just said to him, listen, I'll write my stories if you write yours. And I'll finish the book. And we kind of made a deal. Although I finished and he kind of started but didn't finish. But that's what really got me to a point of saying I was going to write the book. And I took, it was around the pandemic, and I took a writing class. There's someone in the travel world. His name is Don George. Was the global editor of The Lonely Planet, which was a travel guide that I used all throughout my trip. And I knew he always taught classes, but they were always in San Francisco. I could never
Yeah.
make it because I'd have to go across the whole country. But because of the pandemic, kind of like your show, he was teaching online.
Yeah.
And I got like literally the last slot in his class, and got to be in the class. And then at the end I said, hey, would you want to read my book proposal? I'm thinking of writing a book. I've got a lot done. And he did. And he said, not only do I like what you put together, but if you need someone to help you kind of developmental edit it, I'll do that with you. So that's
Okay.
what I did. Yeah. And he wrote the foreword to the book. So it's pretty amazing. Yes, I am excited for 11/11.
Yeah. And thankfully, it's
Yes.
the same format in the UK and the US, so we don't have these confusing
Yeah.
which way round you put it.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, that is true.
I'm going to
Yeah.
ask, I've got another show, and I have a question I'll
Yeah.
ask at the end of that, but I'm going to change it for this because
Okay.
if you met somebody and you had to recommend a travel destination that you went to on that trip around the world trip, what sort of questions would you ask them in terms of what would be the best destination for that then? Or have you just got a destination on that trip that you would recommend to everybody? Like, what would your logic process be in that sort of situation?
Yeah, that's a great question because people usually say, what country would you say?
Yeah.
And it kind of depends on the answer to the first question. And I think the first thing I would like to know is, do you like crowds or you want peace, right?
Yeah.
Do you like beaches or country, or mountains type of thing? Are you like a city person? So we'd ask all of those questions and to then say, if they were someone who like, I really want nature and I want peace and I want to experience something different, I would say Bhutan because it's
Yeah.
so magical. It's such like nothing we've seen in our lives, but if they were like, I want city and I want bustle and hustle, maybe I would say like Barcelona or Madrid,
Yeah.
So it kind of depends. I would ask a few of those questions first.
Yeah. And like
Yeah.
thinking back, this was like something like 2004, 5, something like that.
5. Yeah,
2005.
2005.
Because international travel is a lot easier now, just because of all the gizmos and stuff we have. Things like
Yeah.
Google Translate, and like you can beam your phone up to
I
something.
know.
How did you cope with all? Because I mean, there must certainly in Japan. I think was the first place you went to. That must have been a real language barrier. How did you cope? I mean, I presume you're not like
Yeah.
some multi-fluent person in 15 languages. Like, how did you
No, I'm
cope with
not.
going to somewhere where you didn't necessarily speak the language or know the cultures and things? How did
Yeah.
back in the old days?
Right. I know, it is so true because we would go to quote internet cafes. Like
Yeah.
that's how we got our
Mhm.
mail or, our Google, they wasn't even Google Mail back then, but whatever mail we had, we were able to like go into an internet cafe and look up and pay by the minute. So it'd be like, hurry up, this is costing us $5 or whatever it did. But to answer your question, honestly, the Lonely Planet guidebook,
Oh,
especially because we didn't have our phones and look up things, it
yeah,
would have phrases in the back. So we would learn those phrases or just keep them handy to be able to say good morning or where could I find the hotel or things like that. And just those few phrases really help. And also we didn't have Google Maps on our
yeah,
phone. We would open up the Lonely Planet and follow the little map and be like, are we walking the right way? And we'd turn it and, got lost plenty of times. But, we would ask someone, which way could you point me to the Kremlin? Like that
yeah,
kind of thing. And those interactions wound up maybe being a conversation. And actually, I do have a chapter in the book, which you'll read about the Kremlin and being lost and finding it. And what amazing, like if we did not have that, if we just had our Google map and we just knew, we would never
yeah,
have had that experience. So I personally I'm happy that when we traveled, there wasn't all of this because it made not only us rely on other people, but to make like have relationships with other people because we would ask them, wait, which hotel did you stay in when you
yeah,
went to Rajasthan? And they would say, oh, we stayed at this hotel. Okay, that's good. I wouldn't have known that. We weren't Yelping things.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. So it's like way in the park. Like one question is, what did you pack to begin with? Like, did you take a huge amount of like suitcases, or were you traveling light?
No.
I mean, did you have like a guidebook for every
Backpack.
place you wanted to go, or you just went backpack?
Yeah.
So did you buy
Big
like a
backpack.
guidebook for each place and then throw away when you went? Is
Yeah.
that the way you were
Yeah.
doing? So was it
We
backpack
did.
all
We
the way?
did. Yeah, we were backpacking. We had tried out and got
Yeah,
fitted and did the whole thing and had giant pack, both of us, and then a small pack. And my husband is, like I mentioned, he's a photographer, so he had all his photography equipment and
yeah,
everything you need, all the wires and the plugs, so even more. But honestly, we just found laundromats in every
yeah,
country, and we'd either go to the laundromat after our clothes got a little musty, and we just wash them, and maybe we'd pick something up along the way. But it was kind of freeing to know that like everything we got, we had to carry. So if there was something we thought to buy, we were like, nah, we have to carry that.
yeah,
So let's not. And like for the different temperatures, we were in Japan where it was cold. It was like
yeah,
jacket weather, and by the time we had traveled and it got warmer, we just mailed some things back, or we just gave like, hey, do you want this? We just gave stuff away, and that was very rewarding too to just leave things. There was one country we were in, and they really loved any kind of T-shirt that was like from America, and we were like, here, take this. We don't need this anymore. And they were so happy. It was like they struck gold.
yeah. Well,
So,
we've got a question from it. Just says LinkedIn user. I'm not quite sure why it
oh,
isn't. But do you still
mystery.
be keeping in touch with anyone you met on the trip? It might be somebody on that trip who wants to know whether
I
you haven't been in touch with them.
know. I do. I'll mention a couple of people. So when we were in Sitges in
Yeah.
Spain, which is a predominantly a gay town. We just
Oh,
happened
okay.
to
Yeah.
go, and we met this amazing couple, Christian and Caleb, and we do keep in touch with them. We met actually someone else in that same thing, was not a gay couple, married
Yeah.
couple. Tara and her husband Mark, and we keep in touch with them. It's really lovely. We met when we were in Australia. A friend of ours who's was friend of her friend. She said, "Oh, stay with our friends," and we kept in touch with them. We stayed at their house. They let us stay in their house in their basement, and we kept in touch with them. So it's
Yeah.
a lot of amazing people. Yes, yeah.
Okay. So
Thank you for that question, LinkedIn user.
yes. I don't know why it's LinkedIn, because normally it just tells you the person. But anyway, this is the
Yeah,
world of
it's a
StreamYard.
mystery.
Mystery
Yes.
person. So to finish off, obviously you've got the book coming out on the 11th of the 11th,
Yes.
2024, for anybody watching in the future, so they can rush out and buy it. But
Yes.
you're also a consultant as well. So
I am.
tell us a little bit about what you currently do for consulting, because there might be somebody who watches this and think, I really need a consultant. So what are you doing at the moment? Is it your own company, or do you work for a small company? What's the consulting stuff like at the moment?
Yeah, no, that's great. I founded my own company called Launch Before, and the whole idea is to launch before you feel comfortable and launch before everything's perfect, and to just get out in the world is, really how it kind of started for me. And I help people build online communities with the platform Mighty Networks. One of the major things that I do. And then sometimes I also do big consulting, like similar to what I did at Deloitte. I do project management of big projects using things like Workday, and I just enjoy doing a little bit of both, because I get to do the individual consulting, and then I get to do the kind of bigger consulting as well. And it's been great. I've met so many people along the way. I have a client is in Costa Rica who has a community about consciousness, and then I have somebody in Ireland and Australia and Italy just now, and current client. So it's just been amazing to meet people.
Yeah, and we had an answer. It was the question.
Oh, Marianne Mosa.
Yes, she is the mystery LinkedIn user. Maybe she's got some sort of power LinkedIn status now, and she's known as the user.
Yeah. Well, that's funny that I had mentioned Workday, because Marianne and I were on a project together that was a Workday implementation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how can people find out about you if they want to get in touch with you to talk about your world travel, or about your book, or you're interested in consulting? How can people find out about you and get in touch with you, and anything else you want to promote?
Yeah, that would be great. First of all, you could friend me on LinkedIn or connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Joanne Flynn Black. I have it on the screen. And feel free to send me a direct message. I also have a website, and I'll be adding things to it about the book. It's just Launch Before, LAUNCH, the letter B and the number 4.com. And wherever you can find me, that would be great. I'd love to share more about the book, which is coming out, as you said, on 11/11.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks so much for being the guest today, Joanne Flynn.
Thank you.
Thanks so much to everybody who's been watching on LinkedIn and live, and thanks to all the people who watch in the future. And it was a really good interview, and thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, this has been great. I'm so glad that we had this time to talk and catch up, and I'm definitely going to follow more of what you're doing. And I know you're going to be doing some traveling yourself. Yes, I'm really excited for that.
Yeah. Thanks for everybody watching.
Okay, thanks everyone. Bye.
This is what God requires. Yeah, so I wrote my first book when I was 17, and I was a junior in high school at that time, and that was during COVID. So the lockdown happened, and I was like, I'm bored, I'm going to write a book. And that's exactly what I did.